I'm Mark Unger, producer of Roundtable. Because we find this presentation so special, we really would like for you to see this. Please watch.
Good evening and welcome to a single shot show at Manhattan Neighborhood Network's Roundtable. There is no other profession or human activity on this planet that is as riddled with stereotypes, mostly false, as photography. And furthermore, within photography, the most often stereotyped in many different ways profession is modeling. And in order to debunk some of those stereotypes and to see what it really is to be a professional model, we invited Kira Dikhtyar, one of the greatest and most beautiful models of New York City and probably of the whole world. Hello, Kira, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. And indeed, it's exactly what I said. There are millions of little girls right now when we speak who dreaming of becoming a model, and a lot of their parents who thinking that it's probably the worst thing that could happen to their kid, or believe that it's the best thing that could happen to their kid. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but often it's for the false reasons. So let's see what it really is to be a model.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, so where would we start? Well, probably the first thing is what everybody believes, that model don't work. I mean, how can you consider it work? You just come in there and somebody's photographing you.
You know, that's why we're talking about breaking stereotypes, because truth is very, very hard work. It's I'm making a joke calling ourselves workers, you know, like in Soviet Union it was all these billboards of workers. So basically me and my girlfriends were kind of making fun of it, trying to explain that work of a model, it's actually nothing glamorous, especially in these days. There is like two types of work. It's either it's a photo shoot that we're going to discuss, or it's a live modeling. So in both of these activities we have lots of outfits. So normally if you shoot for the collection you have to like change 100 times, either to present it to the client or present it in front of the camera. So there is nothing glamorous. It looks like work in the factory in a way, you know, so the fashion factory. So there is nothing what people think about it. Like can't even imagine why people say it's glamorous, because they don't really understand how photography works, I guess.
Well, definitely, as a photographer, I definitely know that it's a hard work indeed, and the harder it is, the more serious level it is. And when it comes to the level of serious fashion photo shoot, it's truly laborious, and there is very little of what you can call fun about it. But why people think it, I can actually tell you if you're interested. One of the reasons, when they see you wearing all those thousands of dollars worth clothing, they believe that after the shoot you just give them.
Oh no, we don't. I'll tell you stories about, especially about jewelry, because I had this story once. I almost lost my arm because it was a modeling bracelet for Tiffany's, and it gets stuck on my arm, and it was such a drama in London, so I had to go to a special place to get it unlocked. And I felt these people, I had bodyguards. I would walk to the bathroom, I'm sorry for the details, like with the bodyguards, because they were so scared that I'm gonna keep a bracelet or something. So it's especially when you work with the jewelry, you always have somebody on set who's watching that you're not gonna destroy it, you're not gonna break it. And with the clothing as well, it's very important thing to know how to wear the clothes, to make sure it's not gonna get ripped, make sure it's not gonna get dirty with the makeup. So you return a piece of clothes and a piece of the collection the same way that you took it.
Well, that makes total sense, especially considering the price tag attached to some of those items. And the second reason is when they see you wearing all those clothing, they don't realize that you're changing them within seconds. You're not actually wearing them even on the shoot.
My mother still thinks so. My mother still
does?
thinks it has even I've been modeling for almost a decade, for more than 10 years. She still thinks that I keep wearing all these expensive clothes.
No, but there are still some very important upsides, and the biggest one is probably networking associated with it and understanding of the whole industry, including photography industry.
No, it's always something, like we can discuss that I work with some of the most amazing photographers in fashion photography, and one of the interesting parts when you work for Vogue or for like campaign, some of the photographers love to use you for their personal work, for coffee table book or for the art projects. So it's kind of part of it that they prefer to work on a commercial project with the same models who is doing artistic projects with them. Like for example, if you can start, talking about biggest photographers in the world, it's Eliane Van Unwerts, with who I shot my first Italian Vogue, the famous picture of me hanging on a ring for the story In a Great Shape. It had been republished by Condé Nast in many editorials, and then next day you know that she's booking you for some personal work for her coffee table book. And I think it's very important in order to build a relationship with a photographer. It's not only to work for the commercial project, but to understand how important to be, in all this coffee table books or artistic projects.
If I can get sidetracked for a second, just for my own curiosity, photographers who are doing high-level commercial work, when they're doing something artistic, or what they consider to be artistic, are they approaching it differently, or are they still doing it the same way? We spoke with several people in the studio who actually switched from commercial work to art photography, and all of them was actually complaining about commercial work putting them in a specific form and a specific approach to photography, which is very hard to overcome.
Well, I mean, like an example that I brought up with Italian Vogue, you have the whole Condé Nast basically on set, so it's like 60 people on set, and we know that you have to squeeze the story in 8 pages, and to show the outfits, the Dolce & Gabbana or wherever they brought, and kind of be in the limits of this particular editorial, which is a great editorial. Like Italian Vogue is probably one of the best in the world. It's a good place to start. Or with a client, like we will discuss work with Bruce Weber for Abercrombie and Fitch. So it's all about what clients say, and at this point, photographer is just doing what the client said. But it depends on the photographer. I would say with Alien, it's always positive energy. The only thing I can say between commercial and not commercial, we have liquor on set. When it comes to personal work, she always brings some champagne for the girls to make them more relaxed, to make them more,
That's a famous thing in
this
art
famous
photography.
Thing, yeah. When it comes to work for Italian Vogue, we wait for the champagne until the shoot is done.
Well, that's a
So
serious
there's a serious
difference, I would
difference,
imagine. Yeah. Well, but speaking of beginning of your careers, I understand working with Italian Vogue was the very beginning of where you started modeling. As I know, you actually came in fashion photography from a rather unexpected direction. You actually was a sportswoman and gymnast.
Yes, all my life, all my childhood, I was in rhythmic gymnastics, which is very popular in Russia, master of sports of rhythmic gymnastics. And when I was already training in Olympic Center of Olympic Preparation, I get some requests from Cosmopolitan and from some magazines to shoot something sporty for the magazines. And but I never wanted to be a model. Unlike many girls who come to New York to follow their dreams, I was so focused on sports. And I finished school with gold medal, and I was into sports, so I would never imagine that when I quit gymnastics, I had to walk runaway. And since I used to do flips, it all seems so easy for me, and it's opened lots of doors, as we already mentioned, Italian Vogue image. One of the first booking was for them, then it went to Adidas commercial, for Nike commercial, for big sports brands. And it's also show lots of, because I was trained as a gymnast, I know very well how to move a body. So lots of photographers, like you can see British Tank, you can see a bunch of editorials where you don't necessarily have to do flips or gymnastics, but it's very good to know your body and know how to move with the fabric, with the material.
So did you meet a lot of models coming from similar background, or it's rather unique?
No, this is unique. This has probably established me as a top model. It's that besides looking good on camera, that I do something extra, which is special movements, gymnastics.
So, over years working as a model.
I can say something.
That looks scary for somebody like me. This is amazing. Well, as I understand that, well, you mentioned you didn't want to become a model, and yet it just happened. But if we would talk about all those little girls who actually do want to become a model, and despite it being more laborious than glamorous, they still do. What do you think was important for them to know? What is important for them and their parents probably to consider when they're choosing this career?
You know, the biggest advice I can give to all the teenage girls who really wants to become a model is first to finish school, and don't rush to this. It's very important to finish high school. Look at Gigi Hadid, look at Bella Hadid, look at all the biggest supermodels these days. We don't see them at 14 or 15 years old. They all finished high school, they all was playing sports, like Gigi and Bella was playing volleyball, horseback riding, and becoming supermodels starting age 18 years old.
Okay, we will actually have to continue after the break. Hello, this is Alex IG from Single Shot with the next single trick. Today we're going to be talking about uneven lighting. More often you have to deal with just one strong source of light. The strongest one, of course, would be the sun. And when it happens, half of your object is lit very brightly and another half is very dark, just like my face right now. Is there anything you can do about it? Sure. You can have professional lighting equipment, you can have professional light bouncing screens and many other things. But the simplest and easiest thing you can use, especially if you're doing it in a casual environment, is a regular piece of paper. Put it right against the direction of light and you will get the source of light balanced and your light being just right. And we was talking about the importance of actually completing education before even considering the modeling career. And I can say that this is the best and most thoughtful advice I can think of, and indeed it really connected to a lot of things in life.
Plus another thing why I advise girls to start, let's say 17, 18 years old, because when the girl is 14, 15, she is not fully developed as a young woman, and it's very hard for the agency to see what a 14 years old girl gonna look like when she's gonna be 21, you know what I mean? Because girls, they develop at this age and she can gain weight, she can stop growing or something. So now modeling agencies, first of all, they don't really like to deal with parents because by the law, before 16 years old, parents has to be on set with the girls. And sometimes, you know, when it comes to girls from Russia or from Eastern Europe, when girls are traveling and they think that they're already mature, but it's not like that. So my personal advice for the girls to finish school and, you know, practice sports, go to classes, do whatever, and start modeling about 17, 18 years old, like it's a great example I mentioned before, the sisters Hadid. We don't see them going to China. My personal advice is good to build a book somewhere in Europe, like Paris, London, Italy, not so much, but still somewhere in civilized world. And to go to China, we already had a horrible thing with the death of the Russian model. Basically, girl died in a fashion show in China, and the way these girls work, I have so many girlfriends who would go there. They even stop time, like she's working for 12 hours straight. If she's going to the bathroom, they stop timer. Can you imagine? Like they actually using timer.
It really sounds like
and
slavery.
they take slavery. They take 14, 15, 16 years old girls. You know what I mean? It's too much, in my opinion. And where you go back with some Chinese pictures. Like, with all due respect to a great country, this is not a fashion capital.
Wow.
So my advice for all of the girls who already started modeling is to start build the book in Europe, or lots of girls go these days to Australia or New Zealand.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Or if you go to Asia, go to Singapore, because in Singapore you can build the book very fast. Or if you're in Europe, Greece, Athens, you can build the book very fast, and then go back to New York, because New York is the center of everything. And there is so much work for models, all kind of work. So you're definitely gonna get busy over here.
Wow. And actually, as I understand, work of model is not finishing when she is off podium or out of the photo studio. It's actually continuously maintaining
absolutely.
the appearance.
You have to go. I go exercise with my personal trainer, who is making me do all these crazy sports. Even I come from sports, but still I understand how important it is to keep in shape, especially when you shoot lots of lingerie.
Absolutely.
When you shoot lots of bikini swimsuits. It's absolutely.
As I understand, the body standards in fashion photography started to shift a little bit in the recent years, but I'm pretty sure it's still very rigorous diet.
You know what, about fashion photography, it's about fashion, because you have to have respect for the samples. Samples of the dress, why models actually hide. Some people say that for photography, height is not important. For fashion photography, we work with fashion brands, and the clothing, you have to not shoot a girl, you shoot a piece of clothes, let's say like a dress or so in order for this to shoot with a photographer, clothes comes from runway shows. So if they use 5'10", 5'11" girls on a runway show and a size 0, this is the same size sample that goes next day to the photo studio, where they use a girl who has to be like minimum 5'9" in order to fit clothes who is done for 5'10", 5'11". So they usually use the same girls from the show, or at least the same size of the girl, in order to fit the clothes. It's very simple, you know. It's not about where I learned working with Naomi Campbell on the show The Face. It's not about the girl, it's about the clothes. So we have to respect it.
Indeed, we actually mentioned it quite a few times on this show, the emphasis of difference between art and commercial photography. In art photography, the object of the photography is a person. In commercial photography is the entourage. The person is actually part of the entourage for the object of the photography, and it's actually very interesting and unusual for a human being situation to be that.
Well, I mean, it's just a job, you know. You have to understand that, again, what I learned from Naomi Campbell. I was not just sitting on a show doing PR for myself. I actually learned some things. It's not about you, it's about how can you sell the clothes. That's why girls are keeping skinny and in a great shape, in order, like, for example, with the shapes that I have, anything you can put on me will look fantastic. You know what I mean? So you have to keep the shape. You have to stay skinny, and you have to be, you know, like fit for the clothes.
There is much more than just looks associated with actually doing it right. Many models.
First of all, you have to love your profession. Like in everything you do, you know, if you're a photographer, you have to love photography. If you're a model, you have to love what you're doing. In one side, it's not glamorous, and on the other side, you have to be grateful that you're doing what you love. You love beautiful clothes, you like to move in front of the camera, you like beautiful hair and makeup, and also to work with amazing people, with great photographers, great stylists, great hair and makeup artists. So in one side it's very unglamorous, but in another side this is a dream job.
Well, let's talk about the positives, because we debunked quite a few things that people consider to be advantages of being model, but we didn't say anything about the real advantages, which probably a lot of people don't realize.
No, I mean, it's not really like in every profession. If you're a professional or something, modeling opens lots of doors. You know, some people say that we're gonna probably talk about it as well, that it's limited by age. Not in the modern days, it's not limited by age. There is no such thing, oh, you turn 25, you quit. I'll give you advice. I was working with an 8-year-old woman on a TV commercial, and she said the older you get, the less competition you have.
Indeed it is.
Because, you know, when you're 18 years old, there is all the beautiful girls who are your age, 18 years old, they're all trying to be models. And 25, half of them already gone. They either married and had a kid and they don't want to continue. In my case, when I had a kid, I decided to continue forward. And my career actually took off after I already had a baby, which is, you know, doesn't happen really often.
Characteristic indeed, yeah.
Yeah, my parents, for example, asked me when I'm planning to stop, but I don't see it stopping. You know, like I have a shoot tomorrow morning with amazing photographer Antoine Vergla, one of the best photographers in the world, and I'm not in a rush to quit, because lots of the girls who are my age, they quit already. Not all of them are kind of staying in modeling, you know, so I can't really complain. It's been quite busy. So as long as you're busy, as long as you can handle the competition, you stay. And what the grandma with who we was working for TV commercials look at the commercial market, especially in the United States of America. They want to see clothes not on a child, they want to see it on a beautiful young woman, but still a woman, not like 15-year-old girl.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
All the standards are really
And
shifting
all
now.
these commercials, when you see how many seniors needs to be in the commercial market.
Totally, yes. Well, it's definitely there is no end and limit for the career because of age, and I would imagine the longer you work in the profession, the more experience you get. And as I mentioned before, I know that it's way more than just being able to stand there and let the photographer do the rest. Actually, a good model always works with the photographer.
Absolutely.
So we'll get back to the start after the break. Hi, Alex AG again from Single Shot with another single trick. Today I want to tell you about using internal flash of the camera. Even some very professional cameras have that, but if you would ask a professional photographer, including myself, you would be told not to use it, especially on close-ups and especially when you're photographing people. Reason being, when you do it, the face being overblown. You're getting practically a white face instead of having nice skin tones and nice lighting. Is there anything you can do about it? Actually, yes, there is. You can just put in front of your flash a simple dollar bill and take a picture. What it will give you? Dollar bill is made of material thick enough to control enough light, and on top of it, it will give you some nice yellow tone to complement the skin tones of the person. This is a single trick by Single Shot. Watch us on YouTube. So we have only 3 minutes left, and we was talking about what model actually need to know and need to be able to do besides just staying and looking beautiful during the shoot.
Well, it's a lot. You know, first of all, it's a total dedication, it's personal discipline. I think it's very important. But for me, a sport helps a lot. It's always be on time, always be part of the team, always be there with the photographer and just follow the instructions, follow the directions. There's very simple trick, no improvisation, just a direction of the art director and photographer.
So that's how commercial photography
And
works.
don't be late.
Improvisation
I mean,
doesn't work.
in the business it's very important. Do not be late.
Well,
Better come 15 minutes before.
Punctuality is indeed something that
Because
is
otherwise,
applied.
if you're late, they're just gonna call up agency and somebody else would arrive on your place.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're not talking about 5 minutes late, but I totally understand where you're
Even
coming from.
5 minutes late, you know what? Better not. Because it was a competition, I would not advise it. The punctuality is very important part of it.
Yeah. So what about the physical stamina? We actually mentioned this 12 hours shoots. I'm pretty sure it's not standard
like
situation,
it's not easy. Just don't complain and try to hold on as long as you can. Just don't complain and just do whatever you have to do, you know.
So what would you say was your totally worst and most trying professional experience?
Well, there's been, been lots of the best and lots of the worst. I remember I was cancelled from a shoot in Morocco. I had a shoot and they actually fired me because I was overweight. Can you believe
Really?
it? Yeah.
No, I actually can't, but go on.
No, but there is the situations like that. You came with this swimsuit shoot in Morocco, and it just didn't work. But most of it's only positive shoots, and especially on the trips. When it comes to the trips, they spend more time picking a girl than when it's a local shoot. Let's say in New York City. When in New York City, if you don't like a model, you just call up your agency. They send you another 10. So you have to understand it's a very tough competition, and in order to beat it, you have to be very disciplined and very professional.
Well, professionalism and discipline works for any business arrangements, and photography is definitely not an exception.
But in the same time, like since we talk a lot about commercial photography and personal work, which is, like it's very important to connect with the photographer personally. So not only shoot what your agency or your commercial clients is, but also to be open to do artwork.
Well, I mostly art photographer, and most of the people I actually know are art photographers, and for me what you just said indeed is a key for successful shoot. A personal connection and ability to establish a link, not to just have an object in front of you and try to photograph the subject. Thank you very much, Kira. It was a great conversation. Hopefully we will see you again in the studio someday.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
I hope you found that worth watching as much as I did. I'm Mark Unger for Roundtable. Thanks for watching.